Good evening, and welcome to a joint planning and development subcommittee town council meeting. It's Wednesday, August 13th, 2025 at 6:15 p.m. We're in the Larry McDonald Veterans Conference Room. It's possible a quorum of the town council may be present and discuss the agenda items, but voting rights shall be limited to subcommittee members in attendance. We're being recorded both by audio and video methods. First order of business is call to order. Second order of business is roll call. Councilor Adams.
Present.
Councilor Kelly.
Present.
Citizen member Bernadone.
Present.
Citizen member La Rochelle is excused, and I'm here. We have a quorum for present. Item number 4, review, discuss the confirmation of the town manager's appointment of Shelley Klein to the, I forgot one here. Item 3, consider and accept the meeting minutes of April 7th, 2025.
So moved. Second.
We have a first and a second. Very good. Any discussion over the minutes? Okay, there being no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed?
And I'll abstain.
And an abstain. Very good. Item number 4, review, discuss the confirmation of the town manager's appointment of Shelley Klein to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the 3-year term effective immediately until June 30, 2028, pending successful completion of state ethics. Entertain a motion to recommend to the town council for confirmation.
Motion.
Second.
Very good. Any discussion? Councilor Kelly.
Hi, I'd just like to say, I think this is a good appointment. Shelley has been, I know she contacted me last year at some point, looking to get involved in the town. I referred her to the town manager. She's been attending meetings and has been very eager to get involved in the town, so I think this is a good appointment.
Very good. Anyone else at the table? Okay, Peg?
For those who aren't aware, she is now the Economic Development Commission Chair.
Okay. Councilor Dow.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Again, I hope the people we appointed come back here in front of us or at the town council meeting to be able to verify who we voted for. And our residents know who else apply and volunteers for these boards. Thank you.
Very good. Okay.
I can relay that by email to Shelley and ask she attend.
And you beat me to it.
Okay. Mr. Chair, just let you know, I have a conversation with her. She's in with her granddaughter today, out of state. So, but I think she plans on attending the town council meeting.
Very good. Anyone else? Very well. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Okay. In looking at this, I'd like to take a motion to move item 7 to now, because it's a voting item, and the next 2 items after that would be discussion items.
Motion.
Thank you, Councilor Kelly. Do I have a
Second.
second? Second by Councilor Adams. Any discussion on the motion to move? Very good. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Very good. The next item is as follows. Discuss, review, applying for the MassDOT Local Early Accessible Actionable Planning LEAP program for conceptual design and alternative analyses to gain Interstate 90 access closer to Southbridge. Entertain a motion to recommend to the town council for approval.
So moved.
I'll
Second.
Very good. Discussion.
With it? Go ahead. No, please.
So at Councilor Montigny and Councilor Adams' initiative, we discussed next steps for potentially bringing the conversation forward about how to access the highway. And this brand new application is available. It says it's on a rolling basis when you go to the website, but that email that I sent, I apologize in the initial memo that it was blurry. I resent the original email. In that email, it says that priority applications are due by September 30th. And then, as I mentioned in the memo, I spoke with Derek Cravat at Mass DOT, who oversees this grant opportunity. It's technical assistance, so no funds change hands. They plan to choose approximately 10 projects throughout the state. They'd like to represent the whole state. And they see the value of the projects being somewhere around $100,000. I have no idea what they would view this request, the value of this request at. And I've started doing some homework. That Imagine 2050 document through CMRPC, though it stated it was gonna be released in the summer, it's not released and will not be released until probably this winter. And so we may not have the information from that specific document to be able to back up our application, but we do have in the long-range Imagine Transportation is another part of their planning exercise. In their documents, there's mention throughout it about how in our meetings, we have mentioned things like warehouse and distribution having an impact on the area and needing to be evaluated, that it's causing more traffic, specifically Amazon. And so I'm citing right now, from that document, what we can to be able to include in our application for further heft. And then like I've included in your packet, just looking at the Google Maps of the exit entrance for going east and west to any of these stakeholders like Treehouse, Amazon, or the LNG plant, Northeast Energy. So hopefully we can make a good case by September if the town wants to go with this direction. However, the long-term transportation plan, what it recommends as a first step for the warehousing distribution review is to do a study on a traffic study first about sort of do the traffic count impacts, but I don't know that, we wanna recommend that, or, I think if we go for the gusto, right, and say, we already see the demand, you can do all of the substantiation you want, it's only gonna increase now that we're getting the Walmart warehousing, right, going in, so, my prediction might be is, we'll submit this, but they might come back and say, premature, they wanna do this, traffic count or impact study of the warehousing first, we'll see.
Okay, Catherine?
You'd have to stress that there's 11 red lights from Southbridge to the Auburn Pike entrance.
Okay.
So I already have my own design to bust through and make my own entrance, but yes,
Okay.
it's much needed.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
drive for work, so.
Anything anecdotal that people can contribute for this application is incredibly helpful.
Gentlemen, anything?
Well,
Okay. We'll start with Council Shannon.
oh, gotcha.
Just one question, if the state feels that it doesn't follow the criteria of the application, say the needs or off-ramp, they prefer the traffic study would come out of this fund?
I would hope so, right, I would bring that question back to the town of, is that the application you'd want, if they suggest alternative approaches right now, or that's their initial approach right now, would the town want that as their application? I'm not sure how they'll handle this. It seems like a pretty loose program where they're saying, you could fall within these different, potential project categories, analysis or design or high-level concept, so maybe there's flexibility there, I don't know. Yeah, we don't wanna lose, my opinion is, we don't wanna lose their interest,
Right,
right? Even if they wanna start small.
so are we able to put multiple applications for other things, or are we better off just dealing with the one?
I would say we just deal with the one.
Okay, fair enough,
Yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome. And then I would say worst case scenario, they shoot us down for an application. We go back to them and say, do you propose we study this on our own, or do you propose we come back to you next year and see what the feedback is?
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Tigney?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think all that sounds good. It's a great place to start. And, any study that they would recommend if we apply, I personally am of the feeling that it's a good idea. Does it cost any money to apply for this grant? Okay, at least there's that. So, I know the town manager's not here, but I'm on board personally. I think it's a great route to start with. That's just me, but thank you.
Very good. Councilor Dow, then Councilor Kelly, and then
Thank you, Chair, to you. Did you ever have any discussion with Town of Charlton? Because obviously you're going through their town first, how they feel, if they're interested, maybe they can put their name with us on the application.
share, at the last meeting, there was discussion about this, how to approach it. So my suggestion to all of you was, if we can do the application on our own, before we get into the meat of the politics, we make that first step, and then however we then gain everyone's support. You know, I think it would be great if we go for the application, and I don't know, do we simultaneously start to ask for the letters of support to be able to then send those along as they're reviewing it? You know, because then we won't have seemed like we were going around them, but we won't have slowed the process down of getting an application in. I don't know. I said, yeah, I leave it to you as the politicians. I'm a paper pusher, not a politician.
You're the politician.
Chairman?
Joe, what we're gonna do is we're gonna try and get in the shoe with the study. I think it's gonna end up being, a lot of politics. Spencer's on in the 49, you've got Sturbridge already has an exit, Charlton needs an exit, it's one of the biggest land masses in the state, Charlton, Mass. We have 169, we have an airport right in that area. I mean, you gotta look at the map as a whole, and I think at some point, we are gonna do the politically correct thing to do. Right now, I think we should take the lead, and as Southbridge can lead on the study, we can bring the information to the communities and say, what do you think, guys?
Exactly.
Chair, continue?
Yep.
Just the question why I asked, because let's say you put the application, you go forward, and the state's gonna tell you, hold on, did you ask Charlton? And then put you on delay or make you go through the process again, or?
And my suggestion would be, like Chris said, I would tell them, you know, that's exactly what we're doing right now, is we're looking, and if they'd like to hold on the decision, you know, we can, at that time,
Thank you,
run to get everyone's, documented support. Yeah.
thank you.
Very good. Council Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I kind of share Councilor Dow's concerns, I guess, on this. You said that they only grant 10 applications? Is that what I understand?
It's not a fixed number, but the grantor said they think they'll be looking for around.
10. Okay, so we'll be potentially in competition with other communities. And the Pike itself doesn't touch Southbridge at all. It doesn't come through our town. It won't require any the project won't require any modifications of any town intersections or roads or et cetera. It will, however, impact Charlton. And I'm very much in favor of this, but at the same time, wouldn't our package, our application to the state be much stronger if we had Charlton on board with this already?
I think that, yes, it would, if you can do it in a way that wouldn't slow down being able to apply. So that's up to you.
The deadline is when?
They
September
want it by
30.
September 30.
You'll never accomplish that.
So then what would it mean, select boards, you know, meeting with town councilors, whatever you think is smartest, without it suddenly congesting the application process.
I mean, fire them and gives them heads up, like, come on, you know?
I mean, I wonder if even a casual conversation between Jack and Andrew Golis, the town administrator, Jack saying, hey, if we applied, do you have a sense that the select board would mind? I don't know, what do you think?
Chair, through you, Mr. Lazo, you have the history with it before when.
Yeah, usually when we did the land swap of the 68 acres of landfill, I appointed an ad hoc committee that went and sat down with the Board of Selectmen. I was on there as the chairman, and there were 2 other members, and we sat down and we kept going back and forth till we moved the bound. We got 68 acres of landfill expansion, and they got Dick Tracy's nose on Prince Road. I mean, the land swap was a success until a particular manager just basically gave the landfill away. But
I mean, it was discussed, sorry to interrupt you, discussed that exit before in the past.
Well, the thing is, when you say it had nothing to do with Southbridge, the Podunk Pike was supposed to come straight into Southbridge. The north, which would bring Spencer into play with the Brookfields. And I'm in favor of, when you do the study, I say go forward, let's make the get up and go, to get in under the date. And then, as the thing materializes, we definitely have to sit down with more than Charlton.
I agree.
You know, I think the north-south corridor of 49, you know, is another, look how many businesses are out there. But without looking at the map, the overview, it's a lot of talk. And until we get something to put down on the table, I'd say, what do you think, guys?
If I may, if also approaching it from although the goal might be Route 20 to 169, you know, that exact location, we have no necessary specifics. It's a feasibility study of access to the highway and who and how that would impact our region. We're looking out for all of our neighbors to see how we can improve economics for all of us. And I was trying to do the review of coming off of the west and how, you know, where you would find the underpass, right, like Podunk or wherever. So like you say, it would be such a win for so many towns that I do agree it's a far bigger conversation than just Charlton.
Yeah, and
hopefully they would all
more
see it
towns in the
as,
area,
yeah, and I would, right,
politically.
I hope they would all see it as a foregone conclusion.
Okay, Councilor Kelly.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't have any problem with making the application. I mean, we can't get, I mean, it's probably, you're probably right, it's probably too late in the game here to get Charlton on board with all that would have to go into that for a September 30th deadline. So I don't think it hurts anything to apply for it. I think it certainly would be stronger if we already had them on board. I think the other thing too is the nature of the pike has changed in the last 10, 15 years. The way they don't do tolling the same way, so you're not having to deal with really just putting in another exit, not having to deal with all the tolling infrastructure that would have gone up there in the past as well. So you know, hopefully the state would be receptive to this idea. But I certainly agree with Chairman Lazo that we would want to get all the surrounding communities involved in this, as it would benefit everybody. Thank you.
Okay, Gosselin, Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to observe that maybe it might help if we were to throw in the idea of using the existing emergency ramps that are off on Stafford Street and whichever street that is, I forget, the other side, that side of it.
Yep.
Because they're already there, if they're upgraded and maybe properly signaled if they need to be or whatever, that would be a lot less expensive than trying to do an entire exit system. And they just have to be signed, and the roads around there probably would have to be upgraded to handle extra traffic. But as it is now, they're kind of already there, and as Councilor Kelly mentioned, we don't have to worry about the tolling system in this town. They just go through the Gambies now anyway. So I wonder if that might help promote it a little bit for the state.
Councilor Lazo.
Just nice.
Again, the last meeting we had, we talked about a lot of different options. I'm not saying your option is bad, because what you're talking about is, the pike is about 2,000 feet off of 20. The thing is, in order to study the whole thing, if we pinpoint something now, you lock yourself in, you're not gonna get any oversight with Spencer, 49, 169. We need to look the map from the top. I mean, what happened, we've been expanding our airport on a regular basis. What happens if somebody wants to go air to ground, small package? I mean, all of a sudden Southbridge becomes a player with the airport. I think we need to look at everything and not box yourself into the easiest way to get to the pike. You know what I'm saying? So I think the study is the way to, let's just steady she goes. At some point, I will formulate a committee to be a liaison to to Charlton, especially Charlton first. And then, depending on how the study comes out, But I mean, a friendly conversation of with a coffee saying that we just wanna study the area. You know, we're not doing anything like, hey, we're putting a road in. And, you know, at some point, after this goes in, we slowly bring them in. We do not leave anybody out on this one. We need all the politicals.
And, if I may, yeah, just, you know, I don't know, you know, Charlton will see it as a disadvantage to be taking businesses' eyeballs off of Route 20 and diverting them to the highway. So you don't know how that will, you know, play out.
If anybody drives the traffic on 20 or on a bike, you know we need relief.
Yeah.
And when I say the word, it's very political, they built the Mass Turnpike in Worcester, did not get an exit because of politics. Think about what I'm telling you, one of the big cities did not get an exit. They were mad at the politicals, so they went to Auburn. And later on, they had to fight to try and get something, but this has to be politically handled and make it right for everybody.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I agree with Councilor Kelly too. I completely understand if you get more people to buy off on it, right? But again, then you go on a timeline and then you got politics involved, it just ruins the
You'll
whole
never get it
thing. So I would absolutely go with what we've got going on. There's no malicious intent to leave any town or city out of this whole process. Just an understanding that maybe this is the best way we do it. We take the lead on it, and then we ask for help later. And it's perfect. This conceptual design and alternative analysis, we got all great ideas in here and how we would like to see it happen, but you get the experts involved in Mass DOT, maybe they give us a better idea on how this process will work, and I think that's the purpose of this grant, is to open up the doors and say, oh, didn't think about that, or maybe they say, you guys are smarter than all the engineers combined in Mass DOT. I don't know. But I would say, I think we're on that plan, I think we're on that right track of just getting this, the crawling stage of this process. I say we move forward with the grant, I fully support it, and you know, Peg, thank you for looking into it for us. I appreciate the conversations we've had with Mike and yourself over this whole process. And I'd like to just, one thing I'd like to say is, this is public information. We're out here talking about it. You got a reporter in the damn room. So you know, who knows what can happen and who can talk to who, you know? It happens. And if they know about it, just be an honest broker with it and what we're talking about right now, the why we're doing this, and at the same time, how it could benefit the local surrounding towns as well as Southbridge.
But Dave, I think we don't know.
We don't, yeah,
Okay, and that's why Peg has to do what she has to do.
absolutely.
And then as we get closer, we'll know when to jump in the water.
Then we'll go from there. I think it's an easy process just to move forward with it. But I would like to say, if we're gonna set dates like we did with the 25th, right? That didn't happen at the town council meeting. So I'd like to stick, if we're gonna say some dates in here and try to keep with them so we can keep this timeline going and the proper information being flowed to the residents of this town as we move forward. So that's all I have. Last thing is, Peg, is there anything from the town council that you need at this time when you're applying for a grant? Or the
No, I
town's
just think
applying
the
for a grant?
messaging is important if you're talking about it. You know, it's obviously we're coming from a really good place to try to nudge Mass DOT to consider our whole region, to, you know, what improvements we can do for the entire area. So I think that that's the most important thing.
Thank you. That's all good, Mr. Chair.
Very good. I think we've reached the end here. Any further discussion? Very good. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Unanimous of all present. Very good.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next item is item number 5. Discuss Southbridge's CDBG funded commercial rehab requirement for matching funds. Peg? Peg's got it?
Exchange to the state.
Okay.
Oh, this is a 25% requirement? So state does not require it. Checking with Sandy, she thinks that at some point they were doing loans and it switched over to 25%, but she doesn't know when it happened. When I search back in my files, the farthest back I can go was 2003, and during that time, it looks like it was a matter of supply and demand. It looks like we had a lot more interest than we did funds at the time. The documentation I provided you showed that, there were 27 applications in 2003, and they probably could not fund them all, if property owners were that interested. they would pay the 25% to go forward with the work. And I think that unfortunately in today's economy, our property owners don't have the money as casually. Construction has gone up, for multiple factors. They don't necessarily want to go forward. This year, we allotted double what we had ever budgeted because we had this double grant opportunity. Fiscal year 22-23 was cobbled together. So we went for $500,000 thinking that we were going to try to address the slum and blight simultaneous to the TIP project being done. So while the roads and infrastructure was being prettied up, the properties were also being prettied up, so that by the time 3 years from now this is all said and done, our downtown is significantly more beautiful. Unfortunately, we're not getting the interest, and so we came to a public hearing asking if we could eliminate the 25%. And the only feedback we got was from one attendee who said they'd like to see property owners have skin in the game, but sure, fine, is what gets the money spent. They agree. And then we came to subcommittee, and that's when the discussion was, let's bring it back for discussion. And so we leave it to you, whatever the town council thinks is the best direction for this program. We would ask that we just decide very quickly, because our grant ends in December. If we can't spend this money on commercial rehab, we have to quickly rethink how could we reprogram these funds as efficiently as possible without
Okay.
losing them.
Any comments from the table? Council Kelly.
I'm curious as to why people aren't applying for these funds. I don't think 25% is a lot to ask, honestly. And whether if we decided to reduce the matching fund requirement or eliminate it, whether that would even change anything. Would they be applying for it? I mean, do we know? I mean, have we talked to these business owners they say, oh yeah, we'd apply if we didn't have to pay 25%, or is this just a guess that we're guessing that the 25% is an obstacle?
If I could, through you, Chair, I think Sue and I can both speak to the experiences with the property owners. So I know for myself, speaking with some of them, of course they would go forward if it was 100% funded. They don't have the cash flow, and they've asked for other means for cash flow. I think someone spoke with Gabriel McCarthy, who said he would love to be able to apply for the ARPA loan
Right.
to be able to fund that cash in hand. We don't have enough cash, and we don't have enough money in the revolving fund from the ARPA loans to be able to float an ARPA loan. And the ARPA loan stated it was to trigger the opening of a storefront. His storefronts are open, we're just trying to beautify them. Some of the storefronts are open, that's not true. I guess some of them, you could argue it is for triggering the opening of a storefront. But we don't really have the funds in there to be able to float it there. So it really sounds like a cash on hand issue.
What's that? Okay. Anything else at the table? Council Shenya.
Didn't we just recently have some commercial loans, they pulled it back because of the 25% they wanted? In the last round, they pulled back.
Who's that?
That's what we're talking about, well, that's what brought up this conversation.
That's what brought us here, was because the people didn't wanna,
That's
they
right.
couldn't afford it.
That's right, so
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 they
the
pulled
last,
it, so we pulled it back and delayed the award.
the planning, yes, they said bring it back down to planning
Right.
and development for discussion about the match. The overall, we had a bunch of loans in front of you. We had a request to reduce the match to 0. You weren't ready. There was suggestions at that meeting about, do you wanna do 10% for facades? Do you wanna do 10% for across the board, so everybody has skin in the game, whether it's signs and
Right.
awnings or just facades? And so, you said, do your homework and come back, we'll discuss it, so here we are.
Is there a way of, if we vote to go without the 25%, let them have the full loan and not worry about it, we're gonna leave the property anyways, can we review this the next round of funding?
Of course.
In case there's something that, I have a hard time with some of these loans because of the money they spent to buy these properties. But for the average guy that lives in town and is fixing up their property, I'm for it. But if we can review it later on, I say move forward, allow this to happen without the 25%. It would bring some light fixed, and it would make some of the businesses look good.
Gus?
I was quite curious, while he was saying that, I was thinking, you mentioned that we've been doing this since 2003. What kind of payback have we seen from the 25% skin in the game? And did previously we not do that? And how did that change things?
So the latter question, Sandy doesn't remember when it changed.
Okay.
She said it actually went from a loan program to a grant program. And I'm not sure if that's where she might just be not remembering all the details of the programs. It's always been a deferred payment loan program, right? It's always been, it's a grant program that we call a deferred payment loan because it gets forgiven over time. At some point, they tacked on the 25%, because they had such high demand, is that I think what the history was.
Yeah, I get that.
And
So what do
the
we-
turnover, or the return on investment is, I mean, that's a hard to quantify. If you think of some of the properties that are prettiest in our downtown, the businesses that are prettiest, what do you think of? Volume, that was our facade project. Lisa's, that was our facade project. Yeah, Styles, the half on Main Street, Scott DeRozier's building, that was our facade project. So you can see those businesses really do stand out as classier storefronts. So it's doing its job. You know, it's unfortunate that the property owners or business owners aren't the ones able to afford it. But it's one of those scenarios where, although, you know, we want the property owners to do it, do we say it's worth it for the benefit of the businesses to be able to have a fair shot? And, you know, I feel like I would argue yes, you know, knowing we are, you know, the 11th poorest town in the state, how else can we get ahead? We don't have, so the difference, I guess, we all say, like, damn it, those property owners should be doing these investments themselves, right? But in a town where you're thriving and your properties are valued, right, and there's the demand for those storefronts, then the property owner is gonna get those businesses that wanna come in and wanna pay for, who can afford to pay for those upgrades. It's a whole different equation. Here, we don't have the supply and demand. We're sort of artificially trying to boost that. And so that's where, although it's benefiting these property owners, and we all wish that it wasn't the case, that's why we're doing it.
Councilor Dodd?
Thank you, Chair, through you. A few questions. Did any limited on the owner, how many grant he can apply a year for the building?
If I may, through you, I personally have a score sheet from my previous 2018, 2019 commercial rehab, and in that score sheet, we base it on, you know, like, who's the most visible, who's, you know, like, how would it be, you know, so there was a metric. And in there, I had no competition, there was no person applying for multiple grants. At this point now, we've had multiple rounds, and so we have, and we know who the big property owners are. So we have them applying again, or we have them applying in the same grant round for multiple buildings.
So, the question is when any person applied and he got the grant, are we watching who's the company doing the work? Did they did the work what we funded for? Did they complete the job? Or they taking the grant, start the project, take the money under certain circumstances and wait for the next grant to come in, building never finish, apply for the next grant next year coming in, same thing, building never finish, and then we have another people come, apply for the grant, make it look good, double the building prices and take off on us. So who's watching all this specific so those gonna happen? Because it seems like a lot of games is going on here, to be honest with you. Because I think if you really look since 2010, not 2018, same people, same building never finished, same person apply for a grant, and I like to help people, don't take me wrong, I need help too, regardless. I own a lot of mortgage, people see property, but that's not the point. But it seems like some people specific know the game and they play it, and we're failing it. That's it.
Council Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. So, I guess, I think in a lot of these cases, the building owners and the business owners are not one and the same. These grants are going to the business owners, correct?
When it's a facade project, it's going to the property owner because it's their asset.
Right.
It's the physical building that we're improving, but
Mhm.
our goal is to be able to
So the
benefit the business. However, in order for us to enter into a contract, we have to do it with the property owner and then we lien their property.
So the property, so we have put a lien on the property when we have these, we give the grant, approve these grants. Is the sign project center just going to the business owners, right?
Correct.
Okay, so what the so the facade projects go to the property owners. Okay. I guess I do have, that, I guess in that case, I do have some issues, all right? Because we got a lot of business, a lot of property downtown owned by a lot of out-of-town LLCs that are letting the properties debilitate right before our eyes. You know, I mean, I keep pointing out that building at the corner of Elm and Main Street where it always used to be. Right? That building is, I mean, it gets worse and worse every time I look at it. Nobody has done anything with that building. Right? But there are a lot of other buildings downtown where the same situation occurs. They have the money to buy the buildings, and they sit on them, and I know what they're doing with it. They're just taking it as a tax write-off. They don't give a darn about what happens in the project. They have no interest in improving the building or renting it out. The buildings are not, you don't see any for lease signs or, 2,500 square feet for lease in any of those buildings that are empty, all right? That said, when I've got somebody that wants to come in and improve a building, I kind of feel like I want to help them out because that's going to help the town. So, and if the property owners are saying, well, we just don't have the cash flow to do the 25% match, I think that's BS. I think they've got the cash flow, okay? Because they're buying this building and they bought other buildings and they're sitting on all this property, all right? And they can come up with the money to purchase the properties. And I mean, you should take a look at some of these LLCs and what their holdings are, all right? And they have the cash flow, all right? They have the money. So again, I don't think 25% is unreasonable. We want to consider maybe lowering it and giving an incentive. I mean, I'm willing to negotiate here, but I think there should be some skin in the game at the same time, I really do.
Anyone else at the table? Councilor Adams?
I'll talk later on. Just want to listen.
Let's hear from Councilor Montigny.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So, the two commercial loans that we approved the other night, this is pertaining to those two as well, right, this discussion?
If I may through you, Chair, so those two are just signs and awnings, which we have traditionally never asked for a match on.
Okay, so there's no match for that
There was no match.
currently, and those are approved and in.
Should you want to consider changing that in the future, you could do that during this grant period, or you could do it for your future grant period.
Understood. Okay, so for this discussion, is this also applied to the housing projects that are like we keep going back and forth with this executive session? So there's nothing like looming right now, like we need to hurry up and make this decision because there's projects that are on the hook that we don't know if we're gonna charge 0% or 25%. If someone could just explain.
Okay.
If I may through you, so this was a giant grant year. It was 1.625. We dedicated $450,000 to housing rehab. That's the executive session conversation. We dedicated $500,000 to commercial rehab. We have $350,000 uncommitted that's supposed to be spent by December.
Okay.
and we're sort of log jammed.
So right now, is there a 25% match on those if we do nothing?
If we do nothing, we have applicants backing out.
Okay, but I'm saying if we do nothing, these grants still stick with a stipulation, a Southbridge stipulation of 25% match, if the council takes no action.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to understand where we're at, and you're looking for potentially, maybe someday, to change the 25 to something else. 0, 10,
Possibly.
15, or nothing. Okay, got
Right.
you. I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page, thank you.
Okay. George? Counsel?
Oh, I'm good.
You're good? All right. Counselor Dow? Yep, Gus. All right, Gus?
I just had a quick thought, I said, if some people are claiming cost was a problem, what if we were to give them an alternative of if they get this grant, we put a limit on the rent they charge the businesses coming in.
They'll back out for sure.
They'll have cash flow coming in, it won't be as much.
Those guys,
They won't be raping the
I think we gotta listen to Mr.
All right,
Kelly.
okay. Counselor Dow?
Thank you, Chair. So those questions, those grants, if you can just explain it more a little bit, do they have interest on them? Do they have to be paid back, or this is a grant 10-year or 5-year? If he kept the building, whatever become his, and the lien will be removed?
It's the latter, 0 interest, it gets forgiven over 10 years, 20% every 2 years. 15 years on the facade, it's a lien for 15 years, and then it's forgiven every, whatever the tranches are. You're probably right, probably every 3 years, whatever we have, 20% every 3 years, yes. And then, the traditional route was they pony up 25% at the time they sign the contract.
And if the owners sell it, they have to pay back the town before.
That's, we
And
automatically,
it's not
when they go to
like
do, when their title run is completed, we show up as party of interest, they're forced to pay the remainder of the lien.
It can be transferred to the new owners?
No.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't see, if you go to any bank, you gotta put 20% on a commercial loan, no matter what, if you approve, depend on your credit scores and on your histories, on, you know what I mean? So now we're giving the people free money, you know, keep that building for 10 years, 15 years, you don't have to pay us back, and they're crying for 25%. They have to learn something, you know, regardless who, I think we should keep it. I'm not gonna support the 0 down, I'm gonna keep the 21 or 25, I don't know.
Chairman Lazo?
I think, Gus, you have a perfect idea. I like your idea of trying to make it more affordable for a business to stay in the location. I'm behind you 1,000%. But in the private sector, the minute you try and control the investors, they will back off of the grant. I think Peg might agree with that. It's a great idea, I like it, but when someone buys a building and they're paying $450,000 and need a facade, and you're gonna turn around and kind of put yourself in their position where they turn around and say, oh, you're gonna have to do this. Rent control on the business for, say, a certain period of time, 5 years.
Absolutely.
To get the business off the ground,
That's what we should be
the
doing.
minute they do that, they're gonna turn around and say, I have a certain nut to crack on this mortgage, and I need the rent to be this. We're experiencing this right now in TAG. And that's why, if you look around with the buildings and the investors, there are some people that buy buildings where they don't have the big overhead, but most of them have big overhead. And that's why they go running. They won't go with it. A tough one.
Yeah, I've tried to think about also, like, could we come up with some kind of loan for the 25% when, I think it was after McCarthy's question about the ARPA, but I can't think of a mechanism to be able to take back CDBG funds without it getting complicated with CDBG.
Just a little, yeah.
So that's where I'm stuck. So I don't know if, I mean, I almost feel like if, you know, would you, I hear 20%, you know, would the town consider reducing the amount of the match if the 0%'s unacceptable? Because that was our easy approach. We were like, you know what if we just offered these as grants? That would be able to get the work done. We are literally pushing, like, the Spanish market, I had to really beg them to get this work done. And they did put up the money, but it was a fight, and they received money from the TIP project from their right-of-ways that they weren't allowed to keep, that went right to their bank. So it's not like they had, we were saying, oh, they'll have extra money in hand, it didn't even work out that way for them. But they still were willing to, and it was, we were saying in the big picture, look at the value of your building, even if you sold in the next 15 years, that could potentially really, help that sale. You are the center of all this new construction. So we're having to really pitch this, but if someone's, not that interested, they're just walking away very casually. So we're struggling, and it's not anyone. There's a discrete list of people that are eligible, or properties that are eligible to be able to get these funds. The ones that are in poor condition. Zoe's building, I could give you a little snippet of why each one of these are sitting and what the story is, but I won't right now. Zoe's, they're trying to sell, they want to sell to the right person. We'd love to see whoever gets that building be eligible, but I don't think that building was rated in fair or poor condition at the time of the slum light survey. We could try to update it to then make the next owner eligible, but then my fear is people would say, oh, they're out of towners, we don't want to give them money, right? So who knows how that would play out either. They're all very tricky scenarios.
Councilor Adam.
So I thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I guess my biggest concern is the renters themselves, the people that are actually putting the money into, not that the owners, all the owners have skin in the game because they bought the buildings, right? And they do put some, when the retailers come in there to rent from them. But it's the renters themselves that helps them out, makes it more successful as well to make their place look a little bit better. A place like HTE has a broken window, it's been there forever, right? Before it was even rebuilt. You look at Moon Magic, they're just trying to get the facade up there and make it look nice. I do agree wholeheartedly that they should have some skin in the game. But because this is just being brought up and we have to use it by December, why not have a town council consider voting these in favor of? But come January 1st, there's a new policy put in place where there is skin in the game by each one. And if these people, and I don't agree with these individuals walking in here saying, I want this loan, this grant, but now that you're doing 25%, I don't want anything to do with it, even though they knew that in the first place when they walked in. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. Why doesn't the council vote in favor of these or moving forward with the 0%? But we put a policy in place. You've already talked to Sally, or who was it? Who was there before you? Was it
Sandy.
Sandy, thank you very much. She doesn't even know. So why don't we make it known through a policy that from here on out, these things are at 10% or 10, 15%, 25%. It's all set so they know exactly what they're walking into come January 1st of the new calendar year. My concern again is the renters themselves, and the CDBG funds are given to us.
Right.
I understand taxpayers pay for this money and stuff like that, but it's not coming from our free cash. It's not coming from straight from our local taxpayers. So the federal government is giving us funds to help offset some of the costs for these small businesses that we're hoping to pop up within the town and keep around. I just asked the town council to take a look at it. Start January 1st. We have a policy in place. It's voted on before the January 1st. Work with Sue and Peg and try to figure out a good number for these businesses to move forward. So I got.
Chairman Lazo.
Councilor Kelly, you mentioned earlier it's negotiable. What number do you have in your head that you think that you could use?
I could live with 10%. I mean,
I feel
10 to 15%. I mean, 10% seems to be a good number. I mean, it's a little bit of money. Any one of these businesses should be able to come up with 10%.
Absolutely.
I agree with you 100%. If that's the number that councilors can work, I came in here tonight thinking that we should negotiate it down. I'm not a zero guy. You gotta have something in the game where, you're dealing in good faith. But for me, 25%, if that's sending people away, drop it to 10% and see what happens. We have a deadline by January or whatever, December. Let's see where it lands. I mean, let's weigh in on it, councilors, because he's going up to the floor.
Councilman Tigney.
Thank you. So, through you to maybe Peg, if we were to perhaps at the August 25th meeting, let's say, change it by a vote of the council to 10%, would this help the current process for the remaining 350,000 that you have to have spent by December 31st? Would that help things for you?
It makes me feel hopeful, but Sue has her hand up, I wonder if she has a different.
Oh, sure, it would be great. Remember, there are 3 projects that are queued up, they've gone through the application process, everything's gone out to bid, there are contractors lined up. The town actually approved all the grants, and the people walked away because they couldn't come up with the 25%. If you waived or reduced that match fund, it would be great. We could apply it just to this fiscal grant period, and then starting with the funding that'll come into place for the 2025 grants, we could have a stronger program guidelines in place that say, you know, you have to pitch in your 10%, you have to make sure that you're in compliance with all of our codes so that your building is up to shape. So the timing is good. I like the way that Dave said, do it right now because there's a need to improve those buildings right now. They need the money right now, but things will change before we start spending the 2025 funds.
Well, if I could just continue real quick, I personally, it sounds like the flavor of most counselors here would be reducing it to something, because honestly, 10%, if it's a $10,000 loan, let's say, or even $40,000, $1,000 to $4,000 for 10% should be something that everybody can afford to do, especially for the amount of money they're gonna get back forgiven. Personally, I don't have a problem changing it, and I think if it's gonna help get businesses to look prettier, to quote Peg, then sure. I mean, why not do it now and maybe have a better buttoned-up policy written for the next session of CDBG funds? I don't see the harm in that if everybody's on board.
Councilor Adams?
Just, I agree wholeheartedly with everybody saying about there's gotta be skin in the game. I completely agree with that. But now we're coming into the 9th inning, with great ideas, which is, you know, I understand that. But instead of a clear policy, we're trying to figure out, maybe it's 10 or 5 for this calendar year. We just go into January 1st with the thing, I'm all about if we do 10%. I would absolutely agree with that. But I'm just saying at this point in time, these people went in, they put it in, again, I disagree with them, the fact that they already knew 25% was part of the matching funds and then they back out because they want the town to pay for it, or they go through ARPA. Another program in which I don't agree with utilizing ARPA fund to pay 25% of a project. No, I disagree wholeheartedly. I vote no all day long on that.
But aren't we saying we agree with 10%, like right here, like we're all agreeing with them?
No, what I'm saying is,
Those,
I guess making it clear to Councilor Montigny, are you saying waiting, give them the 0%, but throw 10% on a policy come January 1st? Just to clarify.
If we're looking to reduce 25% to 10, just do it. Like-
Retroactive.
Like, do it for these 3
These-
grants
these
that we already
items.
have everything
Okay.
lined up for. If everybody's cool with 10,
Okay.
then why not just tell them, okay, yeah, we hear what you're saying. I know you don't like it, and neither do I. Because why would you bait and switch the town like that, saying, oh, you guys want 25%, we're out. Like, that's not cool either. But we're all out loud saying that we agree with what they're saying. It should be not 25. It should be something more like 10. So why not save 3 projects that we already have in the can if we're really all on the same page? Make a better policy, but waive. Why don't you just vote to allow these 3 projects or whatever? I mean, unless I'm crazy, I don't know.
I guess my question then would be, would they take the 10% or are they just gonna walk away?
Well, then
You
if
know,
they're
and then
going-
that's on them.
You know
Then
what,
then
there's
it's
all-
on them.
let them walk.
you know?
Oh yeah, if that's the case.
If that's the case, then.
Normal vote,
Okay.
yeah, whatever. Yeah.
All right, Chairman Lazo and then Councilor.
One thing
Shannon.
that, you know, Councilor Kelly brought up skin in the game. Nobody's gonna tell me that they don't have $10,000 to get $100,000.
Right.
I don't.
And if that's the case, you know what's your fault, you own the building.
Correct.
Okay, if you think that you're gonna get rich on government money, and then all of a sudden, you know, we already have Chip Norton doing it, we don't need the little guys doing it. So going forward, 10% looks like we're compromising to our business base, because we're not, okay, we agree with you, no 25, 10%. And then that, I think, is just really fair, and shows the council has compassion towards the business.
Okay, Councilor Shenya and then Councilor Dodd.
Question, if they walk away, they don't want it. So come December, where don't have the funds spent.
Put a motion forward.
Can we
If you want.
write this to the feds or whoever handles that money and ask for an extension or reallocation?
So, I was going to chime in with this. So if we don't see any traction with the 10%, then we may have to come back to you and revisit this. Worst case scenario, if we don't spend the money by December and we're applying for the fiscal year 26 application, and we have so much money on hand, they may reduce our grant award in the following grant year significantly. I've seen it already. We had $125,000 that was not taken, it was just never given to the town as an opportunity because we have so much outstanding money. I never want to threaten. You know that's not the goal. I'm just being honest about this is how they work. Yeah, and if I could just, while I have an opportunity, just to clarify, the bait and switch perception, what happened was, we convinced these people to go forward on applying. When we went out for bids, all the bids are coming in high. So they never anticipated that their 25% was gonna be so high.
So they thought it was gonna be a much lower
Yes.
match than it really turned out to
Shoot,
be.
you could then state it that way,
So-
yeah,
They're not trying to be so, rickety, I suppose.
yeah.
I just, sure. I just hate to see, even though we apply for extension or something like that, any of these mini entitlement funds start lowering because we are discussing this now. Again, I just like to say, maybe we can have a policy vote by the end of the year that it's 10%, 15%, whatever it may be. But, I hate to see that money. If you don't spend the money, they're gonna take the money. And that's always been the policy. Somebody else is gonna spend it for us.
Yeah.
Council Dow?
Thank you, Chair, too. If we do 10% or zero now, what do we do with the people already paid the 25%? Do you already pay them back?
If I may through you, I think I just heard Sue just echo retroactively. So I think Councilor Kelly said very strongly in that first conversation, right? That would need to be applied to everyone. So thankfully, this is still a very new program for the fiscal year. So the fiscal year 22-23 had one project, that was PDS Construction. He had a value project of $48,000, paid $33,000. We paid him $33,000. And if anyone wanted to talk to me about how the elements of that project were completed, he did an outstanding job and went well over his budget, but didn't come back to the town for a change order because it would have been a change order for his own company to get money. So he felt like he was just happy to spend more money. So we could potentially give him back the difference of of 25 minus the 10%. To be able to make up that difference. And then the other two, Esteban and Angela from the Spanish market, are the only ones that have also paid a 25% that we could pay back the difference, to make it a whole, to make it a consistent policy for the entire grant round.
Okay, now that grant is,
And Joyo, yes, sir.
the grant is only in the center district.
It's-
Why wouldn't, if we have a lot of money, we consider about our business people, they should be fairly to everyone in town, regardless. If you have a lot of money left over, some people want it for free, that's why, and why we don't extend that circle to other businesses, owners in town, to be able to have same opportunity like everybody else, live in this town, invest and work in this town.
If I may through you, you did a good job of advocating, for instance, for the housing rehab to take that approach, and that's exactly what we did. The public said, we want this housing rehab for everyone, not just these target areas. And so we made a broad policy, first come, first served, as long as you're low, moderate income, you are eligible, to make it fair. The slum blight survey, the mechanics of doing these programs are very different. You have to have a slum blight survey, it has to be of a discrete area. You have to rate all of the buildings under all these different categories. You're supposed to pay a consultant $40,000. We went and did it ourselves with volunteers on the ground. Thank you to everyone who helped. And so we got it done for nothing. And then now we have to use that slum blight survey. And we had to state within the application, it's based on this slum blight survey. And the slum blight survey has to be approved by our grantors. And then every single applicant has to be approved by the grantors that it meets that survey.
My concern is, okay, we fund all these businesses with the circle you did already, or the district was approved. And those building doesn't need anymore, we're still getting grant. I think we should either reply for another application, extend our you know, the circuit we have to allow other businesses to be fairly, like I say, it shouldn't be fair to you, not, Shinya or not Adam, because he lives 2 feet off the line. He do same thing, he pay tax, he live here, he pay, you know, like everybody else, it should be fair for him too. I don't think it's fair, I understand where you come from, you wanna improve the downtown, but seems like it's limited building there, and we seem like the state, the government helping us. I think to allow that money, you don't have to be worried, spending them and then reduce our, coming back from the government, extend our circuit. Either if we have to apply for a loan to do study again, I think we studied the road 20,000 times, we study our building 1,000,000 times. I think this is an important point to spend more money, either if you can take money from that budget and study. And one more thing, why we can't, the town broken too, he's in debt. Why we can apply for this money to fix the town?
So, if I may through you, I wholeheartedly agree, it would be great to get more slum-like areas. I actually was just thinking about, the Harrington Hospital neighborhood, if there's enough commercial. I'm always looking at where you have to be predominantly, you have to be mature.
You
you have to be
got Mechanic Street, you got,
The Globe,
Mechanic Street is included in it, the Globe already has one. The area has to be predominantly commercial by percentage. And again, it would cost us $40,000. We could by all means reprogram some of these commercial rehab funds and ask, could we squeeze in a slum blight survey? But I just talked to CMRPC yesterday and they said that they're stretched on staff because they're about to do a slum blight survey for Palmer. And so I'm not sure if we could get it done by December. So we wouldn't be able to get it in time for these funds, but it would be for big picture, absolutely.
so I would recommend, one last thing, Chair, and I'm done. I would recommend, I agree with every other council, they want, like I said, 25 or 20%. If we're concerned to lose those money, let our people invest in this town, get the benefits of the doubt. Let's do 0%, give everything out, but with flag, after we put the new contract or the new whatever law, we're gonna go by 10% or 20% is gonna be everybody equal from the beginning. Like this, it wouldn't be gap, this guy 25%, this is free, this is this. Like this would be moving those money, like this doesn't go back to the federal or the government.
The next round, I think he's saying, we have a policy in place.
Okay, Counselor Kelly, then Counselor Ortiz, then everyone.
So based on the discussion here tonight, I'd like to put a motion on the table. And I'd like to move to recommend to Town Council to reduce the CDBG Commercial Rehab Matching Fund requirement from 25% to 10% for fiscal year 2026.
That would apply as 22, 23, if,
Well, do I have, what fiscal year is it?
So
it's the grant funding year 22, 23.
that's
And
current
if
funding.
if you say that, it would allow the retroactive
20
correction for the.
2022, 23.
Or maybe you meant 25, which is the money we haven't gotten yet.
So,
Well, that's,
so then,
Hold on, go ahead, Counselor Kelly.
all right, so the motion is to recommend to Town Council to reduce the CDBG Commercial Rehab Matching Fund requirement from 25% to 10% for grant fund year 2022 to 2023. That's the motion. Second?
Do I get a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Citizen Member Bernadone. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Discussion. All right, let's try first, Councilman Tigney.
Thank you. All right, so this is great. I think everybody's on the same page. If you do this, you'll have reduced it to 10% for all things, even the retroactive couple that we just approved, that were 25%, correct? Okay, and then we have on the horn a few projects that'll probably come back into the fold if it's reduced to 10%, you would hope. And if they leave, they leave. But this corrects that problem. Everybody really seems to want a policy for the FY25, FY26. You guys have all fall to work on that together, you know, this board and Peg's office. You could take that back to another subcommittee. I just think this is we just spent a while on it, but I think we hashed it out. I think we fixed the problem. I think we saved this year because the thing is, if you approve this, you are going to save the future funding from not getting reduced. Because if we can't spend this money by the end of December, we're gonna potentially hurt ourselves for the upcoming fund. So this fixes that problem. Plenty of time to make a real policy. I just think we've pretty much discussed this to death, and I think we're all on the same page. And I really appreciate Councilor Kelly's motion because I'm fully on board with it, and I think we need to give those people opportunity and retroactively too. I'm totally on board. I love this whole thing.
Councilor Ortiz hasn't had a chance. Go ahead.
Is there a list or a map of these areas where the grant is?
Yes.
Can I see that? You have a chance, thank you.
Excellent. I can provide that to the entire town council, what the eligible buildings are. And if you want to encourage property owners that you know are eligible, by all means, please push them our way.
Thank you.
And when I do provide them to you, know that even though they may show as in, there'll be a list of all the properties in fair or poor condition are guarantees. But there are also properties that were rated in good condition that we know have elements that were not rated in good condition that we can try to get funded. So that's how we're also trying to get at this. Is like, maybe there are more properties that we can make eligible. So it's not like an absolute when you see it.
All right, I'll give the last word to Chairman Lasso.
Write a policy, more writing, more bylaws, more everything, right? No, you have a grant program that comes in 2026. Council will vote on what that percentage should be. Not a policy to tell the future councils. Let the future councils have the open door. Like now, we have the open door to say 10%. So why do we need in the writings, when we can vote it, when you get a grant, what are your expectations? Don't put it in granite like that. That doesn't allow government to work. And your councils are gonna change, and your ideas are gonna change, and then right away it's like, oh, we gotta rewrite all that. More work for no reason. When the grant comes in, we can just turn around and say, what is the flavor of the day for the council on this grant? What's your recommendation?
Right.
And then next year we'll vote, maybe because we're booming, we're gonna go 25 again. And then what are you gonna do? Go back and have another meeting? I'm not into big government, guys, sorry. That's all I'm saying.
Fair enough.
The council is supreme, they can make it anything you want.
Fair enough.
If I may through you, I would love it if it was that simple. There will still have to be good government, because then when you make your vote, then I'm gonna have to have a public hearing, and then we're gonna have to get the state's approval, and it's still gonna be a runaround. But at least you won't have to do, at least it is absolutely adaptable. You can change it every year. We still will have to go through many steps though, unfortunately.
But even if you make a policy, say, okay, we're gonna make it 10%. Okay, now we have a written policy, 10%. You go do all your artwork on the 10%. Now somebody wants to change it. I don't see why the policy, I just don't get it. Remind me of working with my old friend Dave Smith. Write everything down.
Okay, I think we've talked this out pretty well, so I'd like to move the question if it's possible. And any further discussion from the table, the members of the committee?
No, I do, I have to say a comment, Mr. Chair, just real quick.
Go ahead.
By making a motion, it's called a policy. You're setting it in stone for this council for its flavor. 10 years from now, it's documented now, where we know where that came from. We spent the last hour, 2 meetings, talking about the same thing over and over, where it come from. So by putting this in writing, is a policy for us.
You have it
Thank
in
you.
writing and you have it on TV.
That's right, I just said, thank you.
Right.
On the 25th, we'll hash it all over again for 2 hours.
All right. All those in favor?
I may have to abstain.
Thank
All
you
those in
all.
favor of the motion as stated? All those in favor of Councilor Kelly's motion? 3 against? 1. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, further discussion. Item number 6, discuss the CDBG housing rehab program related to disclosing property owners' names and/or addresses. Sue, is this yours?
Sure, this is something that we brought up at previous meetings, talked about the fact that the state expects grantees to protect the privacy of those who apply for the program. And we have done that by redacting the contracts before they go to town council. We know that the town council is interested in seeing the names in order to vote on them. And we've talked to the state to make sure that we'd be in compliance with their expectations if we do bring it, the contracts with names to executive session. And now, well, through you, I point to Peg because she's had the back and forth correspondence with the state.
Very good. Okay, thank
I just want to first apologize for bringing this to Monday night executive session and the meeting. Looking back at the subcommittee, there were 3 different conversations, and I think the conclusion was to bring it to the 25th. Nora and I had a conversation about should it go, and she and I agreed, we'll just put it on, and if they want to postpone it, they can postpone it. So I apologize for any confusion on that part, and I take full responsibility. With regards to the conversation with the state, I was sure the state was going to get back to us by Monday night. And I was naive because they didn't respond to us until today, saying it's their preference that we not bring it to a public forum, even an executive session. But they didn't say we couldn't. And so I think we're good to be able to go ahead. They said that most importantly, we just have to guarantee that you are objective in your vote, that your vote does not influence, was not influenced because of the person, because of the address. That it's, you know, the vetting of those applications is done through that low-income eligibility process downstairs. If anyone's curious how that operation works, that they're welcome to learn. But otherwise, we are welcome to go ahead and bring those names forward for your reference so that you know who's getting the money. In the interest of good governance.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would say this, is yeah, I would like to, there's a reason, I won't even I won't even get into the 25th on my Sunday letter. I will say this, it needs to go to executive session. The lawyers here did exactly, no disrespect, lawyer, sir, but they used great words in here. Preference is that you not share. It's a preference. It's a great word. It should go to executive session. I completely understand where they're coming from as far as, you know, you don't want people to be pushed down as far as looked upon as being lesser than. I got that. But we as a town council voted to accept these funds and to oversee these funds to ensure that they're going to the proper places. And executive session is a perfect spot to discuss where these locations are at, and then we move on from there. Because we're putting literally our names to these funds and saying, okay, this is a good area. Maybe not the public, but executive session is a perfect spot for it. There's a reason out of those 10 items for executive session, that one's on it. And so I think we should be going to an executive session.
Councilor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I agree with Councilor Adams. I mean, we're being asked to approve these funds. It's required by our charter that we approve that these items be brought to us for approval. We, as a council, have, as a result, oversight authority over this, and as councilors, we have to have the enough information to make informed and proper decisions with regard to public funds. Without knowing the addresses or even the individuals, it's very difficult for us to fulfill our oversight authority. So it is not appropriate to bring it to regular session. It is appropriate to bring it to executive session, where we can at least be informed of the information that we're being asked to support. So I agree with Council Adams. I mean, executive session is the place for this. I don't think, again, it should not be disclosed to the public. But we, as the trustees, essentially, of these funds, do need to know where they're going. Thank you.
Catherine, do you have anything you like to say? No? Council Shannon.
indulge me on this. I recently did some research and I found this in the state of Massachusetts, confidentiality and disclosure of names of recipients of residential repair grants in Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, government records, including those related to grants, are generally presumed to be public unless an exemption applies. Whether the names of the recipient or residential repair grants are disclosed depends on the specific of the grant program and the application of Massachusetts public record law. Public records law exemptions, general principles. Every record made or received by a state, county, or municipal office in Massachusetts considers a public record unless it falls under specific exemptions. Privacy exemptions. One relevant exemption concerns personal identifying information which may be withheld, particularly if it discloses, constitutes an intimate detail of a highly personal nature. Consideration of grant programs. The nature of the information, whether a recipient's name is considered an intimate detail of a highly personal nature in the context of residential repairs, would be likely be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. Public interest versus privacy. The analyst would involve balancing the public's right to know against any privacy interests associated with the disclosure. Grant-specific rules. Certain grant programs may have their own confidentiality rules or disclosures, especially if the funds are federal or involve specific protected categories. Example, victim of domestic violence or individuals with disabilities seeking accommodations. Potential for disclosure, transparency. Government entities administrating grants are generally encouraged to be transparent with the use of public funds, which may favor disclosure. Contractual agreements. If the grant is awarded through a contract, the contract terms may be specifically how recipients' information is handled. Contracts. The granting agency. The best way to determine if the recipient's name are publicly disclosed is to contact a specific agency or organization administering the grant program in question. Submit a public records request. Individuals can also submit a public records request to obtain information related to the specific grants or program. And the information above provides, general overview of the concept. The thing that I find concerning about not allowing it to be a public disclosure, or at least a minimum of a closed session, is the fact that your office gets to see it, the contractor gets to see it, the building inspections gets to see it, the assessor's office gets to see it for the taxes, the tax office gets to see it, and then it's publicly recorded in the deeds, probate. So, I don't understand what the problem is of discussing this in public.
It was very hard for me to be quiet while you were reading that, because you came upon the exact language, which is why we're in this conundrum. The contract with EOHLC, I think I provided the email where they cited the contract we have with them. Their contract says we're supposed to treat the housing rehab information as confidential. So that's why they said unless you have a specific local bylaw charter that explicitly states you have to have the town council's approval, you do not need to go for approval of these contracts. And so then I provided them our charter language that states that in fact our town council does need to ratify all contracts, and that is why this is going to you, and that it won't go to a public forum, it will go to executive session, so we'll still be protecting it. With regards to the use of information within town hall, the impression is that it is supposed to be confidential, and I obviously can't speak for every staff member, but we try to emphasize it. We can do a better job of trying to emphasize it with the staff to ensure that privacy. But it's all just rooted in how they, getting federal funds, choose to stay within their contract with us, that we have to handle this information confidentially.
But, if I may, how do you prevent the confidentiality part of this when it goes to probate? anybody can look up.
If you wanted to, you could actually, if you knew anyone who has one of these, you could look up how it's recorded. We try to do it as discreetly as possible. We actually say, you know, a UCC filing, which, you know, the Uniform Commercial Code, those are the tools that we use. We don't necessarily state what it is. So then when the title gets run for a transaction, they know the town is an interested party. They contact us. We have to verify that we're allowed to disclose information to that party before we talk to them at all. So then we have to talk to the property owner and make sure, do we have permission to speak with whomever we're being contacted by? We get in writing from them, yes, we can talk to them, and then we talk to them about the details of the lien.
Thank you.
So if the council feels uncomfortable, just vote no.
That's all.
If that's what they wanna do, that's what we do.
Private session.
Cool.
There was the suggestion about, you know, you go into executive session and then you wait and you vote the next town council meeting, but I would adamantly advise against, just go to executive session and then please, that same meeting is when you go into open session and vote for that contract, so that there is no perceived influence of your, you know, being disclosed information about that person and then looking into them and then just deciding against them 2 weeks later. And that's because we have to guarantee EOHLC that you are remaining objective. So that's my only wish, is that if we do this, they just end up being the same meeting.
Mr. Chair, if I could continue one more.
Now you're done.
You're the chair. So, and I'm not on the DA team, so. My concern is that in the past, just recently, there was an issue with the problem with the house, the roof color, I guess, or something. And I think me as a council should be able to go by that address to see that it's being done, and being done within the terms of the contract, such as time limits and those kind of things. I just don't, where does it,
You're not gonna inspect.
when does it end?
I mean, if I could, through your chair. I mean, I think that's all well and good, like Dee had mentioned that in that first meeting, that she wants to know the name so that she can be seeing the progress, or seeing what's happening with the project. With all due respect, sure, if that's, as, again, in good governance, you wanna be watching how the money's being spent, you wanna be there in case, you know, something, as an intermediary, to make sure that we're doing our jobs, that's all well and good. We just have to make sure that the decision to approve their application wasn't based on their name and address.
I understand.
Yeah, that initial decision, that's all they ask for, is that objectivity when approving.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Adams?
Just a caveat of what Peg said, I think that the council's already gonna do that anyways. They should do it right away. Thank you.
Councilor Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. So, the legal language that Councilor Adams read earlier is very telling, because they said they prefer that it be kept confidential, which tells me that there is absolutely no legal requirement to keep it confidential. Okay, so otherwise they wouldn't have said preferred. It's preferred as a matter of practice. As a matter of practice, that would be something that I would agree with. That said, counselors, we are the people's representatives, you know, in town government. All right, we're responsible to the voters, and we're responsible to exercise our authority with full information. So we do need to know the information that's in the contract. We are essential. It is essential information that that needs to be disclosed to the councilors. We don't have to announce it in open session. But quite frankly, if somebody filed a FOIA request, I'm not quite sure you could deny that information in a FOIA request. So, you know, that would be something for the lawyer who reviews it to determine. But I don't believe, based on the Massachusetts Freedom of Information Act, that you'd be allowed to withhold that information. So we certainly shouldn't make a big deal about who's getting these funds. publicly, but we do need to know the information. Thank you.
Joint retainer.
Thank you, Chair Chino. I think, like Councilor Adams said, we do it in a private session, and we'll leave it there. If anybody from the public want it, let them request, the information privately. We can vote on it in a private session, we can keep it there. I don't think names and address could come out.
It's gotta be an open session.
So you,
Open session, you can approve it on,
Right.
redact.
but address and name, it could stay in the private session.
Yes.
And if anybody is really concerned that from the public wanna know, they can go and request, public information, whatever. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Councilman Tigney.
I just want to say thank you so much to Peg and to Sue. You know, we've been talking about all of these things for about a month and a half now since the new session began, and I appreciate you advocating for what the citizens want, because we represent the citizens, and if we're all saying we need to know, so we feel good about this. Thank you so much for doing all that we can. I think we should go executive session Monday the 25th and take care of everything on this agenda after that at the full meeting. And thank you, everybody. This has been eye-opening and good for the town. Thank you.
Chairman.
There was a resident that had a job done by the rehab grant, and, there was some questions by the resident, and I got a phone call. So me being a contractor, I went over to the house, and, you know, the color of the roof was white. It was Denstech, it's one of the best roofing materials that you can use. And she was all panicked about it, I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's a Cadillac of material in the roofing industry. Then I went through some other things, I just wanna say that, I don't mention the lady's name. I think our town hall people, to handle that thing right to the finish line, and it got a little rocky with one of the contractors, maybe he was a little unprofessional, but I think Peg and Sue handled it. It wasn't my job to get involved, I just wanted to, you know, she wanted me to represent her, and I did. But, I think these grants are needed. You're talking about a person up in her years, wants to live in her home, and this grant basically allowed her to do that. And going forward, I think we'll continue to do it.
Okay.
We should have a policy.
Okay, we're all set? All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second?
Very good. All those in favor? We are adjourned.